Strictly music, only music, and nothing else. I have a pretty interesting one here today, so let's not waste any time and let's get right into it. Let's go ahead and talk about Polo G's new album, Hood Poet. Let's go ahead and just jump right in. Strictly music, only music, and nothing else. Track 1. Track 1 goes by the name of God's Favorite. Now, this track, very aggressive opening beat, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It is an opening track after all. However, Polo does not match the energy initially. When the beat changes, however, he gets even a little bit, so that's a plus. I'm not very big on Polo on this beat. I feel like he doesn't do it enough justice, which takes away from the overall feel of the track. I think the beat kind of runs him over a little bit. The beat switch does give him a little chance to get his shots off, but overall, I feel like he doesn't do this beat enough justice, so it takes away from the overall track for me, and that's not a great way to start off a project, especially a project of this length. The beat came in strong, but he did not, so that was definitely a downside. Now, track 2, No Recruits, featuring G Herbo. G Herbo does his thing on this track. It's on theme to have Herbo on a project named Hood Poet. I mean, he is, along with Lil Durk and some of the other Chicago boys, what we would refer to as hood poets. I actually preferred Herbo over Polo on this track. I think it benefits this track greatly, the amount of time that Herb was given to work, because he definitely adds life to this track for me. On this particular track, I feel that Herbo is necessary. Without Herbo, this track is a bit boneless and it falls apart. So he is less of a feature and more of a co-main event, and as you can see, it is listed as Polo G and G Herbo. So Herbo did the heavy lifting on here, which is interesting because the first track wasn't necessarily as strong as I feel like it could have been from Polo, and in the second track, the featured artist carries majority of the weight. So I'm definitely thinking at this point, what's Polo doing exactly? I want a bit more from him, and track 2 kind of drove that point home for me when Herbo took over and just ran Polo over. A competitive nature should be present in some of these rap artists. I feel like you should want to have the better verse, especially on your album. So I don't entirely agree, but Herbo is a hard act to follow, but Polo G is a good artist in his own right, and he should rise to that challenge when on a track with someone like Mr. Herb. So let's see here. Track 3, Barely Holding On. This feels like a classic Polo G song, and I like that a lot. This is a good track. This has that vintage Polo G delivery and melodic style. It's a very sturdy track. Very, very sturdy track. Nothing in particular over the top in my opinion for this track, but it definitely feels like classic Polo, and I like that. Shout out to 808 Mafia on this one as well. You know, 808 Mafia always does what it's supposed to do when it comes to production, so that definitely adds to it. It's a regular Polo track. It's a regular Polo G track. Nothing particularly, eye-popping on that one. It's a regular Polo track, and that's fine. But again, track 1, I didn't feel like he came strong enough. Track 2, Herbo kind of took over. Track 3, it's a regular Polo track. Nothing particularly unique or crazy about that one. So I'm really looking for Polo on his own album. I'm looking for him, and that says a lot. Track 4, Only Gang, featuring 42 Doug. I like the hook on this a lot, and the production was dope. I hear Southside, I hear Smatty, and I believe a few others are also on the production team on this one, so shout out to all the production team. Shout out to all the production on this. The production was dope. The hook did the most for me on this. I do like Polo's verse. He is starting to wake up a bit. Track 4, he is starting to wake up a bit. I like his verse on here, but the hook did the most for me. 42 Doug also added a bit to this track, but the hook is the real selling point of this. The verses are good. Polo has a decent verse. Doug has a decent verse, but the hook eclipses both of those verses. It's almost as if you're kind of listening to the verses, but you're really waiting for the hook to come back in. So the hook does the heavy lifting, and the production kind of further reinforces that hook, and the verses fall a bit to the wayside. So again, I'm waiting to be woken up a little bit by Polo. He's starting to wake up a little bit, starting to wake me up a little bit as well, but 4 tracks in, I feel like it should be a lot more Polo. I feel like he is leaning on the production a little bit. He is leaning on these features a little bit. And I don't know how I feel about that in particular. I want to see more from the main event artist when it comes to his and or her album. This is your album. Take control. Be the driving force behind it. I think, up to this point, he's a little too comfortable playing second fiddle. But we're only 4 tracks in, so, maybe something will change. Now, track 5, Same Me, featuring Friday. Polo is joined by Friday on this track, and at this particular point, this is the best track on the project so far. The first 4 are almost completely forgotten once this comes on. And I like this one a lot. This is honestly probably the best song on the project, and it's definitely my favorite song, hands down, so far. The first 4 tracks don't even compete with the 5th one. So I like this one a lot. Polo switches up his subject matter from the streets. He talks more about his tumultuous love life, and Friday helps drive that point home on the hook. Big ups on this track. Now I feel like we're getting somewhere. But again, a lot of help from Friday on this. But Polo did hold his own to an extent. I still edge it to Friday. I think Friday, added more to the track. But Polo switched his subject matter, and that helped him out a lot. He went from the streets to talking about his tumultuous love life, and I feel like that added a bit for me. Now, track 6, Detox. Nothing particularly sticks out to me on this track. It's very regular. The subject matter can get a bit repetitive, and I feel like unless the delivery is changed, you find yourself playing the same track. Although it's a good song with the 808 Mafia production, nothing really spoke to me on this track. It's a regular Polo G track. It feels very reminiscent of track 3, and nothing really spoke to me on there, so there's nothing much to be said about track 6, Detox. Now, track 7, Thorns. Melodic Polo returns on track 7, and honestly, I feel this is when he does some of his best work, so I enjoyed this more than the track directly before it. Track 6, Detox. I feel like track 7 is leagues better than that. So I do like when Melodic Polo returns and changes his subject matter a bit. I enjoyed this track a lot more. I'm looking for more at this point. Like, though these tracks are very safe and good, it's just that. They're just good. They're good. I'm looking for something a bit more captivating than that. We're 7 tracks in, and I'm still waiting, with the exception of track 5 with Friday, which I believe is the best song still, even as we approach track 7 and we give track 7 a listen. I still feel track 5 edges it out. I'm waiting for something a bit more. It's like these songs come and go. They're not very memorable. And I'm looking for something that's just going to stick a little bit more. And at this point, I'm hungry for these tracks. They're super digestible. They blend together and become almost one track. And everything with the exception of track 5 falls into this trope. Like, you can blend all these into one song, and it would be hard to tell the difference, in all honesty. So track 7, it was good, but that's it. These tracks are okay. These are okay tracks, and some of them sound similar. 7 tracks in, and at least 2 or 3 of these have a similar delivery, similar cadence, similar flow, and the only thing diverse about them is the beats. So I do not want to see Polo get trapped into this one trick pony-esque style, but 7 tracks in, it seems like that's what's happening. Now, track 8, G63 featuring Offset. Offset's verse was wasted on this track. Polo just didn't match the energy at all. And again, it sounds similar to other songs on the project. Too similar to enjoy them as individual tracks. Like, they're too similar to enjoy them as individual tracks. The features and beats bring the diversity, as Polo gives us more of the same. So I'm not a big fan of that. But big ups to Offset. He showed up and showed out regardless, but his verse was wasted on a track like this. If you're going to have an artist like Set, if you're going to have an artist like Herb, if you're going to have someone like Doug, like Friday, and you're going to put them on your project, your album, which is a 18-track album, you should be more eager to show your prowess and your ability. He is too comfortable allowing these production teams and these features to run off with his shine. This is your album. Dig in and take control. That's what I would like to see. However, that is not what I've been seeing. I've been seeing him complacent and comfortable with taking the back seat. And I do not agree with that at all. So as we are 8 tracks in, almost halfway through the project, I don't agree. Now track 9, We A Shoot, featuring Lil Durk. Give this track entirely to Durk. Give this track entirely to Durk. Polo handles the hook. And honestly, he didn't have an entirely long verse, which follows the theme of him kind of falling back. But give this to Durk. I can do with even a shorter verse from Polo and give this even more to Durk. Give this entirely to Durk and let Polo simply handle the hook. And that's pretty much what happened here. But give me even less Polo and more Durk, which is a bold statement since this is his project. But if we're talking strictly music, only music and nothing else, give track 9, We A Shoot, entirely to Durk. It seems like Polo doesn't want it. He doesn't want his shine. He doesn't mind these other artists coming in and dominating him on his own song. Give it to Durk. Durk wants it. Offset wants it. Friday wants it. Herb wants it. These guys are rapping their ass off. You're coming in with the hook. You're being a supporting character on your own track, on your own project. So give it to the bigger name. Why not? Because it's safe. It's safe. You're going to get a semblance of a hit or something that can kind of be pushed out. And if you're comfortable with that and you don't have the desire for more, then that's fine. Give it to the artist that you know is going to get on the track. And no matter who he's on the track with, no matter who's rapping, no matter what the song is, they're going to deliver. Polo is not striking me like a person on this particular project that wants his shine. He has these bigger artists come through and then he just plays a supporting role on his own project, and that's fine when you're trying to do that maybe once or twice to get a hit and you know that this artist is so much bigger and so much more talented that it's better to just kind of let them take lead. But we see this time and time again with artists that I feel like he should be able to hang with. Herbo has way more skin in the game, but Polo should be able to hang with them to an extent. These Chicago boys are your peers and contemporaries. They went to the same school as you. They may not have graduated the same year, but they went to the same school of music. Y'all are these Chicago boys. You should want a little bit more, in my opinion. Now, track 10, Rain Falling, featuring the Kid Leroy. Melodic Polo returns, and it's a treat. It's almost as if he has to fight back on his own project, and Melodic Polo is a different beast, and I feel like that's honestly his best way to do it. The best way to do it is to be Melodic Polo. I feel like that's when he has the best chance. His rapping ability with some of these guys, I don't see him holding a candle. No disrespect, but I feel like when he is a bit more melodic, he can debate. It's more of a debate. Leroy shows up. Polo actually holds his own this time, and I am grateful for that. It's like a sigh of relief. I'm like, finally, he holds his own Polo on this track with the Kid Laroi, and I like that a lot. It's good to see Polo try to even up the score a bit. So big features and big ups to Polo for finally saying, you know what, I'm not going to keep letting these big features just roll over me. I'm going to try to get me one. And I feel like he might have got one over the Kid Laroi on this. And I'm not trying to make it a competition between the features and the main act. It is a collaborative effort to bring the project and to bring the tracks to life. But Polo puts you in that mindset of him versus them by allowing them to just run rampant all over his own track. So now you have to think what's going on in terms of him versus them. Does he even want to be remembered on some of these songs? And on track 10, Rain Falling with the Kid Laroi, I feel like Polo says, you know what, let me get me one. And I feel like he got one and he edged the Kid Laroi out. So it gave me a little bit more confidence to continue listening to this. Now track 11, Distraction. I like track 11. I feel like 808 Mafia added to this. It seems like he caught the beat a little better than some of the others beats on the project. Not too much to be said on diversity. At this point, I kind of threw diversity out. I'm no longer looking for it. We're 11 tracks in. A lot of these tracks sound similar. But he definitely handles this beat better and digs in deeper with his flow and delivery. So that does help edge some of the other tracks out. Even though it does sound like it could be similar to some of the other tracks, he just gets deeper in his bag. So I feel like he put more effort in on this track in terms of rapping ability. And you can hear it, man. You can hear when he tries a little bit harder. And I just want him to turn up a little bit more. We're 11 tracks in on an 18-track project. And I just want to hear Polo just lose his mind one good time, you know? Now, track 12, No Turning Back, featuring Honcho. Melodic Polo just does so much better, in my opinion, because he returns again. And it's a far better track. Melodic Polo just does so much better. He's joined by Honcho on this track. And again, the feature on the track almost eclipses him. I feel like on this track, he walked the line, though. He wasn't fully eclipsed, but if you said that he was, I would say that you had a point to make there because he walks the line. He holds his own, but to an extent. He doesn't have a good record with features on this particular project. When you see his name next to a feature, it's at this point we have to assume that the feature is going to outdo him. And Honcho almost did that. I think it was a bit 50-50 on this particular track, track 12. I find him taking a backseat on his own songs, which is fine occasionally for the sake of a hit, but to do that too often on your own project, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not a big fan about that. And at least on this track, he stands a bit taller than usual. So it does seem like he is trying to get him one. He edged the Kid Laroi a bit, in my opinion. And at least with Honcho, he is fighting back. So I can stop putting him against them now and feel a bit more comfortable that he's going to get him one. And I hope that he follows that trend of at least fighting back to the fullest extent when he's on here with these features. Now, track 13, Angels in the Sky. I feel like I've heard this track twice already on this project. I feel like track 13, Angels in the Sky, I feel like this was already on this project before, even though it wasn't. The diversity is non-existent. Something needs to give when he gets in this bag to add diversity to these tracks so they're not so synonymous. Something needs to change when he gets in this particular bag to differentiate one song from the next. Because Angel in the Sky, in all honesty, if you put some of these tracks in a grab bag and shook them up, no matter which one I pulled out, I wouldn't be able to differentiate between the two. There are very small, minute differences between these tracks. And I feel like you got to kind of pump that up just a little bit if you want to be in the conversation. And that's my biggest critique leading up to track 14. Do you want to be in the conversation? Or are you just pushing this project out because the label told you to, you have a deadline to make, or you just need to re-up on your deal, or whatever the case may be? You're trying to fulfill your contractual obligations. Do you want to be in the conversation with these artists that you're featured on? Do you want to be in the conversation to have a project this long? I'm assuming that you want to be in the conversation, but for at least 3 or 4 tracks to be synonymous, in my opinion, it doesn't show that you want to be in the conversation, or maybe you're incapable of being in the conversation. I'm not entirely sure, but track 13, I've heard that before on the track. I've heard that before on the project, excuse me. I've heard that before. It did nothing for me. Subject matter was good, but again, if you mix these songs up and you pull them out, you won't be able to tell the difference. Now, track 14, Dark Side. I feel track 14 falls victim to the same trope as track 13. I feel like track 14 falls victim to the same trope as track 13. However, he tweaks his flow just enough to give it a bit of a different feel. But on a project this long, I find the diversity on this project coming more from the features and less from Polo. His melodic bag saves this track a bit for me and definitely holds up this project as a whole. I like the outro on this beat, so shout out to the production. But if it's not melodic Polo, it sounds the same. And then that's where the features come in, and they go batshit crazy and take over the track, or production has to really, dig deep and try to give it some more flavor. So if it's not melodic Polo, man, I don't know if I'm checking for a lot of these tracks. I don't know if I'm checking for a lot of these tracks. Now, track 15, Bad Kids, featuring Glorilla. This is a dope track. Twisted Genius pops out with this beat, and it's phenomenal. Probably the best beat on this whole entire project, which is something to be said considering you got Smaddy, considering you got 808 Mafia, Southside, and so many other great producers. But Twisted Genius goes crazy on this. But I feel like this is a beat more in line with his feature, Glorilla. I feel like this is a Glorilla style beat that Polo hopped on and put on his project. I don't really see Polo on beats like this or hear Polo on beats like this. This is very much in Glorilla's bag, but I will say it seems like she brought something out of Polo and he fights back more on this track. However, I still feel once again the feature edges him out with that. I don't know. Her verse and her contribution to the track is the better side of this track, and it's still being one of the best songs on the project for sure. And Genius went wild on this beat for sure, but Glorilla edges him out. But I do like that he is starting to fight back a bit more. I like their chemistry, actually. I think she brought something out of him, and it's different. There's one word I'm looking for on this project with Polo, and it's different. 18 tracks, I want something different. Something different. I feel like at least 6 of these songs are synonymous. And Glorilla comes in and says, hey, we're not doing that. Let's turn up. Let's do something different. Genius, give me something crazy that I can bop to. So this is definitely in the conversation of being the best song on here, if not the best song on here. I got it interchangeable with track 5 with Friday. Track 5 with Friday, I feel, is still my personal favorite. But if you put track 15 with Glorilla on there, I wouldn't be mad. And that was Bad Kids. Track 15, Polo G and Glorilla. Now, track 16, Survival of the Fittest, featuring Future Hendrix. Can you guess what I'm going to say? You could probably guess. I find myself wanting more Future, very similar to the Dirk track, and less Polo. Polo is just not standing up well to these features at all. They are commanding these tracks, and they're just taking it completely away from them. Great production on this, though, so big ups to that. And I get it. It's Future. He's a Goliath in the game. He's colossal. He said so himself on the track Colossal. We know how Future gets. But fight back. This is your project. You're an artist too, at the highest level. You're in the industry too. You have the backing. You have the promotion. Go ahead and fight back. Get you one. And if you can't get you one, I'm from a place where if you have heart, you still get the respect. So even if you can't beat the guy, you fight back. And for the amount of features on here, he only did that about once with the Kid Laroi, and he kind of made it debatable with Doug and Honcho. Everyone else edged him out clear, and they edged him out bad. It was a wash with every other artist featured on here, and that's not something that I want to see so often on an 18-track project from an artist that's been around as long as Polo has been around. So track 16, Survival of the Fittest, give him the Dirk treatment like track 9, We a Shoot. Give me more Dirk on track 9, We a Shoot, and give me more Future on track 16, and turn the Polo down. Have him do the hook. It doesn't seem like he wants it anyway. Doesn't seem like he wants the notoriety of being able to stand next to these guys in terms of cadence, flow, delivery, subject matter, all of that. So just give it to the bigger artist. He's too complacent with falling back to the bigger artist, and it shows a sign of respect. But rap is competitive. I want to see a bit more competition verbally from Polo. Track 17, which is Father's Day, very heartfelt subject matter on this, and the point is great. It fits very well with the overall theme of the project, but it falls victim to the same trope of sounding similar to other songs. I give it a bit more respect just because of the subject matter and what he was talking about. So the sound is the same, but the subject matter is heartfelt, and for me, I gotta give that a bit extra points. The outro on this is great with the heartfelt voiceover at the end and a heartfelt sample to carry it out. So I can't complain in this instance simply because of what he's talking about. But in terms of sound, it's the same shit, different toilet. Now track 18, From the Heart. He closes the project out with bars and delivery, and overall make this project smaller. I'll sound like a broken record going into track 18. It has the same problem that a lot of these other tracks have. In my opinion, make this project smaller. 18 songs, you can cut this in half. You can reduce this to maybe 9 or 10 songs. And if it's certain songs that Polo feels he needs to get off, maybe put it on a deluxe. Maybe deluxe it if there's certain songs that he feels he needs to get off. But a smaller project pushes this way further. 18 songs, 50 minutes with so many tracks sounding the exact same. Maybe cut both the track list and timestamp in half and keep the most prominent features like Friday, Future, Glorilla, and Dirk. And I think we get an overall better project. Track 5 or Friday is a clear favorite for me. I would also give it to the track with Glorilla as an interchangeable number 1. So track 5 and track 15, I feel like they're interchangeable for number 1. But overall, this project did not need to be that long. He didn't strike me as an artist that had much to say. Granted, that's a bold statement to make with Polo because his subject matter and his delivery, he always tries to talk about something. But too many of these tracks sound the same for 50 minutes. To listen to this straight through for an hour, I found myself kind of zoning out because a lot of these tracks sound the same. Make this a smaller project, and I feel the whole dynamic changes, in my opinion, for sure. A smaller project for Hood Poet is a better project, in my opinion. Strictly Music, only music, or nothing else. Polo G, Hood Poet. Go check it out. Some dope features on here, some dope production on here. Polo got one or two for an 18-track project. You should have a bit more than that, but go check it out. Strictly Music, only music, and nothing else. Polo G, Hood Poet. Go get that.